Okay.
वन्दे मातरम् वन्दे मातरम् सुजला सुफला मलयज शीतला शस्य श्यामला मातरम् वन्दे मातरम् वन्दे मातरम् वन्दे मातरम्.
Yeah, hello and welcome. This is a very special, edition for Republic Day of India, and we are truly blessed. I'm truly blessed that I have some very esteemed speakers today, guests for this session. Um, so we started off. I think you could hear some of it. I'm not sure you could hear all of it, but a rendition of Vande Mataram. It's the 150th anniversary of Vande Mataram we just celebrated. So this was sung by a Guyanese American, Mrs. Geeta Besram, and unfortunately she couldn't join us, so she um, sent us a recording. And, basically, she's from Guyana. She was born in Guyana, and I'm doing some work for indentured labor. So this is how I met her, and she's got a wonderful voice. So that was nice. And then, so we have with us today, we have, of course, what a great honor to have Mrs. Anita Paf. Anita Bose Paf. She is the daughter of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. I still have to pinch myself to see that this is real, that I connected with such an esteemed personality. Um, and then also we have Mrs. Shafali Mehta, and her grandfather was a very prominent poet, and he was classmates with Gandhiji. So that is Gandhiji's classmate, and then went on to help with with Gandhiji's work. So that's pretty amazing. And she's coming to us all the way from Auckland, New Zealand, and Anita ji is coming to us from Germany. And then last but not least, we have Mr. Sanjay Chaudhary, and he is the former Secretary General of Netaji's Trust. And he at the moment is in India, but he's going to talk about something very special, which I'll come to when we have him on. So we're going to start with Mrs. Mehta because she's going to tell us about a sonnet or two that her grandfather wrote in Gujarati and then translate in English. So, and what it means, like that. So, welcome, Shefali ji. If you can share the sonnets, that'll be great.
Thank you, Kumu, giving me the opportunity. And today I stand before Anita ji and Sanjay ji. It's my honor and it's very humbling. As you said that my Dadaji was with Gandhiji and they were classmates and they worked with the Azadi. Gandhiji was writing motivational things for our Azadi, and my Dadaji was also writing very motivational sonnets. Sonnets are the couplets, and he was the originator of Gujarati sonnet. I will just narrate one in Gujarati and then I will translate. Nishan chup maaf, nahi maaf, nichu nishan. This sonnet was mentioned by Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji in his speech to the nation as well. Below is translation in English. Not a failure. Low aim is a crime. You must aim high. Out of 10, even if you fail in 8, but those 2 aims which you have achieved is much higher than your failure. So he always says, never aim low. Another sonnet, which is another motivation, and I always keep in my mind, if not for a creative experiment, what is life for? The thing is that in your life, if you don't do anything unique, then, like it's not a great satisfaction. So many people, they just follow, they copy people, they try to do the same person, but it's not. Do something small but unique. That is very, very satisfactory. So these 2 sonnets are very famous, and I always keep it in mind. Kumuji, you have given me this opportunity. As I said, Gandhiji and my Dadaji, they worked together with Dandi March and everything. So I always have my Dadaji in my mind. So thank you. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
No, thank you. And we didn't mention his name, Sri Balwant Rai Thakur, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, very nice, very nice.
And the unique part, they both were born in Porbandar and then they studied in Rajkot. And this is how they knew each other very well.
Oh, very nice. What a blessing. Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you. And so now we come to Shri Sanjay Chaudhary ji. He is the former Secretary General of the Netaji Trust. So welcome. And if you could, the main thing why I wanted you to be present today is because of this incredible thing where the Andaman and Nicobar Islands have been renamed to their original heritage, which is the Indian heritage. And that has a very deep connection to Netaji. So if you can speak about that and then also tell us a little bit about the trust and also about the your connection to Netaji, which goes way back to your mother when she was a little girl, right?
Yeah. So thank you very much for having me on. And my pronouns to Anita ji, who's there. I call her Anita Mashi sometimes. And uh, yes, that's my mother, Bharati Asha, with Netaji when he first came to Tokyo. And on his right is my grandmother, Sati Sen. Yes, she was a Bengali married to a Bihari. And my mother, etc., were born there in Kobe and later lived in Tokyo. And of course, their life was full of the Indian because her parents were revolutionaries. And Netaji was a name who often cropped up because my grandmother Sati was younger than Netaji by a few years, but their families knew each other pretty well. So she knew him from childhood. So uh, just to quickly finish this part of it, just to tell you where I come in. So this is my maternal grandfather, Anand Mohan Sahai, who started his political career after leaving his medical studies and joining Gandhiji and staying there. And in the process, he met Netaji at the Gaya Congress, which they organized together. And then on, they did know each other. But then uh, my grandfather, Anand Sahai, decided that there were other ways of getting independence. And I think he was coming on to what Netaji later said, that freedom has to be taken. But he said it's not possible to be in because things were going off So he went off to Japan, started working there. After a few years, he joined up with Rashbihari Bose. Although they worked in different cities, he was in Kobe and Rashbihari Bose was in Tokyo. For various reasons, they stayed. They stayed in touch, but not closely seen together. Later, they together formed the Indian Independence League, which broached the idea of the INA, of the Indian National, of the Azad Hind government. And of course, they needed Netaji at that time because they needed a very strong leadership who was respected by the Japanese military as well as the people, and of course, people back in India. So, all in all, so I'll just give you a little quote from my grandfather's book when he writes about Netaji. And, he writes on that, just read that out so that I don't make a mistake. So he writes that, when they were still deciding that, look, we need a leader of that caliber to take us through this huge project of waging war on the biggest empire in the world. So, so he says that my only hope was Subhash Chandra Bose. His leadership was without doubt indispensable for a concrete and practical service that we could have thought to render to the cause of India's freedom. Then he writes, I was convinced he was the only popular Indian revolutionary leader who could be the man of the hour. He had the courage of conviction and enjoyed the confidence of the Indian people, and his talent and daring would command respect of the Japanese leaders, both civilian and military. So this is someone who knew him and who was with him from day one in Japan as his political advisor and later a cabinet member of his government. So, let me come now to the Andaman and Nicobar part. You see, when they formed the government, the Azad Hind government and the INA on 21st of October 1943, they were organizing the whole government machinery, and there were a lot of plans. And one was that they didn't have a land which they could call, yes, this is India and this is free India, because this was the provisional government formed in exile. So he said we must have. Fortunately, Andaman Nicobar Islands, which was already under Japanese occupation, uh, but was originally a part of India. So the Japanese agreed, and that is when Netaji decided to visit Andaman and Nicobar and take charge there. He went with my grandfather, Anand Mohan Sahai. There are enough pictures of that. On day one, on the 30th of December 1943, they visited the cellular jail, which was the scene of the, detention and death of a huge number of Indian patriots. And that day, they hoisted the flag in the ex-British commissioner's residence, and next day, 31st of December, they officially unfurled the Indian tricolor. That was the Azad Hind Fauj flag, of course, but tricolor nonetheless. So, and then, of course, he met, and there were a governor was put. Dr. Loganathan was made the governor, and that was how the administration. My grandfather, incidentally, was the Secretary General of the government, the actual running of the government, right from designing currency notes and postage stamps, stationery, getting the government part, the working part of the government, the civilian government. Okay, so that is how. So that was a very important stage because then they could actually plant on the soil of India, plant the Indian tricolor and that was a very important stage in the development. And right after they moved the capital out of Singapore, the front headquarters to Rangoon, and that is when the war really started. So that's in very brief. Of course, I'm sure there are many stories which I don't think we have the time right now. So that is
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah, and so what does that? What does the trust do? The Netaji Trust. What does that do?
Okay, you see, there's uh, the Netaji Subhash Bose INA Trust was formed by a group of, in fact, ex-army men, a gentleman called Brigadier Chikara. He started this trust back in 2003, and they have been working on propagating Netaji's thoughts, keeping his memory alive, propagating his and popularizing the glory and the story of the revolutionary move and what Netaji led. And Netaji was not only INA, there was a whole history of a few decades before that, so which people did not know. And then, of course, people just remember the war part of it, that he was a soldier, but he was a huge planner. He was a statesman by, and he understood geopolitics like no one on the Indian scene understood at that time and knew what was coming. So, so that was something that was. So that's what the trust tries to do. We publish books. We've published a number of books, and uh, the I was the former Secretary General for about 4 or 5 years when I was used to work in Delhi, and I came in touch with the trust. So that's what the trust does, and even the Parakram Reverse this time, which we celebrated day before yesterday, and I was very lucky because somehow the Ministry of Culture asked me to go to Gomo. I don't know if you know Gomo. There's a station where Netaji took the last train journey out of India, and uh, Gomo, by the way, 7 years ago, they renamed the station as Netaji Subhash Bose Gomo Junction. And we have a huge statue there, and a function is held every 23rd of January on Netaji Jayanti, now called Parikrama. I'm glad the government has done that. The government of India has decided to make a much bigger thing, and so that the message of Netaji goes down to the. This time they had organized 13 different functions, official functions. There were thousands and thousands of birthday celebrations. In this case, the 129th birth anniversary of Netaji.
Right.
So this is. I must tell you that I have traveled far and wide in the villages of India, from north to south, east to west, and if there's one statue that you see in every little village, and that is of Netaji, made by the local mason, maybe. But he is there. He is there in the hearts. The youth get enthused by him today because he is the only blemishless Indian leader today, was then and even now today. So he offers the kind of inspiration that Indian youth especially need today.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think that's what my take is.
yeah, that's great. So the place where he unfurled that flag, it is called Parakram, amongst those islands, the Andaman Nicobar.
Parakram is basically aggressive nationalism in this case. Okay, not passive, not passive and sentimental, but actually practical, and a willingness to defend our sovereignty, a willingness to, uh, because India, fortunately or unfortunately, lies between the West and the East, and we are where the two thoughts coalesce. So I think and it's important for India to realize that we never go back to years and years of domination by foreign powers. So I think we have realized that, and I'm glad that we are seeing this day. We have seen all kinds of days in our lives. So I'm glad of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I share the military background in that my mother's oldest brother, he was an Air Force pilot
Mm.
during the Indochina War. So,
Oh, wow.
um,
Wow.
so that's what it is. So, all right, thank you so much. And I would now like to go to our chief guest of honor,
Asta.
Mrs. Anita Puff. Welcome, Anita ji, and thank you so much for blessing us with your presence and waking up so early in the morning from where you are. Um, so, um, so if you can tell us about Netaji, your father, and his legacy, how it is impacting your work today and your life, that'll be really it's very nice to hear.
Jai Hind to all of you. Thank you, Kumuji, for having me on this program.
Namaste, Jai Hind.
And nice to see you, Sanjay, of course, meeting Shefali. I'm very honored that I can speak to you about my father and some of the memories. Of course, when we think back of all the freedom fighters, they had one thing in common, which I think we should recognize, and that is they wanted to have India become a free country, to become a strong country and be successful. And of course, they did not always agree on the way how to go about this, but I think this is the one thing they had in common. And Komuji, you just mentioned that, and also Sanjay did, that my father is still remembered with great affection and respect by others. And I would say that actually, as time passes, there are probably two leaders who are remembered in a very affectionate way. One is, of course, Gandhiji, and the other one, I think, is Netaji. And I think partly, of course, they had the poor luck or the luck, whichever you look way you look at it, that they were involved in the independence struggle, but they were not involved in the nitty-gritty work of daily administration of India after independence. So many of the problems that politicians of the day had to face and difficulties they had to face with their own staff and so on did not touch them. So in a way, they are sort of remote and respected and also loved. I think others who were involved in the work later on also were involved in some of the controversies. Now, let me maybe touch upon one aspect that is often um, stressed or maybe considered a problem. That is the differences between Gandhiji and my father. My father had the greatest respect for Gandhiji, but he did not agree with him on all the details, particularly not on how India ought to gain her independence. And to put it in a sort of very simplistic way, I think both of them were non-compromising on some issues, but those were different issues. I think Gandhiji, if you look at it, was uncompromising on the question of nonviolence. And if we look at his biography, there are some steps that he took that might have surprised particularly the young people at the time, that when it came to uh, supporting action which was not only peaceful, he just withdrew his support. And I think probably sometimes this sort of antagonized particularly some of the young firebrands of the day. And my father was uncompromising in a different way. He was uncompromising in the matter of cooperating with Britain. And if we look at some of the other famous freedom fighters in the 1940s, they sort of said, oh, let us support the British if they promise us freedom after the end of the Second World War, because they were violently opposed to fascist systems. And my father felt that first and foremost, you had to look at India's independence and the struggle for that. and you had to look for the support of those who were willing to go along with you. And looking at the countries, if you remember the Second World War, of course, there were not too many countries available that were willing to oppose the British. Certainly not the United States, or also not many of the other more democratic states at the time. My father would have hoped that the Soviet Union would support India more strongly, which they did not. As it turned out, of course, the attack of Germany on the Soviet Union brought them on the side of the British during this war. But there was never any question about my father's respect for Gandhiji. And for example, the INA had several brigades, and one was the Gandhi Brigade, and another one was the Nehru Brigade. My father and Pandit Nehru had many things in common, particularly on the political field. They were both leftist leaders, and they were at that time fairly modern. And I think the way they saw India's future probably was not so dissimilar. But on the other hand, Panditji was always more willing to adapt to what Gandhiji wanted to do. And my father, when it came to India's independence, was not compromising.
Yeah, that is yeah, thank you for pointing that out, because I do a lot of work with nonviolence, and I work very closely with Gandhiji's two granddaughters. So this is why, even though he was opposing Gandhiji's views in some ways, or his way was different, but their goal was the same, and so I wanted to bring that out. Um, so thank you again, for making that distinction, but yet the similarity. Um, so I'm very grateful to all the speakers today, for all my valued guests, especially Anita ji. And I wish everybody a very happy Indian Republic Day. And hopefully we can meet again and pick up this discussion in the future. Thank you so much. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.
Jai
Jai
Hind.
Hind.
Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.